back from the break. It's 3 minutes past 8, and well, we're still watching Smart Men's Business, your daily Kickstarter for the day. Amanju Barije, Masika Time, Joram is also just joined us here as we're here to drive your business all the way through. But of course, before we get into any other related discussion, don't forget the markets on the Zabo platform. As I speak right now, just about 11 minutes left for the markets to open. Now, *92# is simply the code for you to be a part of these markets. This will avail you with a number of options where you will be able to buy government bonds and securities for just 15,000 Ghana shillings. Now, 8:15 a.m., that's when the markets will be opening, and they'll be running all the way. That is to 3:15 p.m. 8:15 a.m., 3:15 p.m. And this is effective Monday up to Friday, except on the weekends and the public holidays when these markets are not accessed. But of course, away from that, you have the rest of the 5 days. And to capitalize and make yourself quite some huge money, something which I believe is very important for a trader, just in case you experience quite some sorts of trade deficits that is throughout the week. Now, Zab says, my money, my future, and Autox East Africa says, do something new for yourself. Well, right about now, of course, as we head into our other discussions, let's first of all take a look at our business tips and quotes for this morning to inspire you. Should end your month inspired, and of course you're going to start your July still inspired. Well, as long as you say that you're thinking, you better think big anyway. That is a Donald Trump, a man that has been over issues and over issues. I mean, people don't like him, I know that, but he has some sort of unique aspect when it comes to handling life and so many other related aspects. His net worth is a billionaire, by the way. About 4 billion, and I think the last time I had his net worth, it was about 4 billion. Now I think he could be 6. 6 billion.
Personally, I love Trump. I love. He's a man of chaos. I love.
Trump is more like. Do you remember Nebuchadnezzar?
Yes.
In the book of Daniel in the Bible.
Yes.
Not so Durham. Interesting. Anyway, we're not doing a Bible study here, but I was just giving a comparison on that for you to see that. Anyway, now away from that. Let's head to our social media trends and of course take a look at what's really trending out there. This is at Akech Andrew. It says Juba Media gives you versus real Juba. South Sudan is a beautiful country.
Okay.
By the way, this is something, a big aspect, and I did something last time when I mentioned something on better be on ground and get facts yourself. Now, President Salva Kiir has met, this is at South Sudan government, yes. President Salva Kiir has met his South African counterpart, President Cyril Ramaphosa in Pretoria. Now, the two leaders discussed bilateral relations between the two countries, and the meeting also touched on the crisis in Sudan and regional matters of concern. the South Sudan, this is at Suzanne Jimbo. She says the South Sudan pound that has Dr. John Garang's. I request for that to review that again. Yes, the South Sudan pound that has Dr. John Garang's peak and our beautiful environment keeps dwindling in value. Salva Kiir has failed the economy over the years.
Okay.
Okay, that is at Suzanne with that opinion right there. Now this is at Ajong. He says His Excellency General Salva Kiir Mayardit Salva Kiir, Mayardit President of South Africa, Sudan, received by his brother, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, the President of the Republic of South Africa. Now, two great comrades and African freedom fighters. And now coming in here, this is at Suna King Germs. He said they are going to export umeme to South Sudan, yet in my village in Wakiso there is no power, yet we have been paying taxes even before independence. Uganda is actually going to be exporting electricity to Sudan. Yeah, and that is Nayevali says that Uganda to develop a 300-kilometer power line to South Sudan. 308 kilometers. Now this is Uganda to construct electricity line to South Sudan, and of course with the voltage power transmission lines, that this will enable the sale of excess power from Uganda, that is to South Sudan. Now the governments of Uganda and South Sudan have signed a power sales agreement. This is at Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. That's the official Twitter handle. Now the governments of Uganda and South Sudan have signed a power sales agreement to boost power and trade between the two countries and bring socio-economic development to the border towns of Oraba, Elegu, Kaya and Nimule there. All right, that is it for our social media trends in regards to that. So Sudan into making quite a lot of headlines in there. We see their relations with South Africa, and also them going to be receiving our electricity. In other words, Uganda is going to be exporting electricity, that is to South Sudan. Of course, something which has caused quite lots of lots of discussions in here. Why is it? Because I guess we still experience load shedding, right?
Not really.
I
think
at some incidents, to some extent. Okay,
I think the only issue that is out there in regards to South Sudan, and why even the members of parliament were asking the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development as to why Uganda is exporting electricity to South Sudan, was simply because they were questioning the fact that we have some other areas within Uganda which don't have no access to electricity. Well, I could actually say load shedding has not been an issue in Uganda, by the way. It's just that at times we have power shortage in some areas. I think the most serious load shedding kind of incident we had was in around November last year, when there was a nationwide blackout. And that only happened for a few hours. It was nighttime, I guess. But I think when you look at the terrible load shedding cases in Africa, South Africa gets into the situation because lots of businesses were affected last year for the matter. But yeah, the issue is, why do we extend electricity or power before we even extend electricity to various communities within our country? That is where most of the members of parliament were actually questioning the move, and not greatly against the fact that Uganda is extensively taking these particular electricity lines to South Sudan. Well, you get to realize that, well, the government intends to make sure that it continues to earn a living off the exports, because you realize we also have extensive lines that head to Kenya. We have extensive lines that actually also cross over to a bit of Rwanda. So you get to realize that at times when you make it formally to South Sudan as well, you're increasingly gaining quite a number of revenues. And with the kind of situations you see South Sudan, and with our social media trends rotating around South Sudan,
yes.
you realize that even the president, that's his Salva Kiir, is making boss moves to ensure that at least the South Sudan economy is getting back to, you know, or is getting to where it's supposed to be, because as a young African country, remember it's just a decade cross ever since South Sudan broke off from the Republic of Sudan. So you get to realize it's more like an independent government for now, and the government intends to make sure that the economy is not in shambles as we may think so. So I want to believe the bigger question or in the picture here is, how about the Ugandan communities
which can't access electricity?
And in cases whereby if a transformer shuts down, they will wait for months to have this transformer rehabilitated. So those are some of the big issues there. But of course, Uganda will be you know, extending its electricity to South Sudan as well.
Well, very interesting aspect in there. I don't know what you think as you're watching in here. Uganda to export electricity to South Sudan, and yet we don't really have communities that have this electricity to full capacity. That is in our country, Uganda. But anyway, the bigger picture in here is because I can look at it from this other perspective of the East African community, and because we have the East African Trade Investment Summit that is coming up, and some of the aspects that are going to be discussed is in line with linkages in the supply chain. I mean, trying to see how those linkages can actually be closed, you know, the value chain, in other words. And we know that energy is a key element when it comes to, once energy is put out of the picture, there is some sort of a decline within the value chain. And these are some of the aspects which are going to be really put across. And I believe Sudan is really positioning itself quite very efficient to be a part of this. Remember, as much as we talk about integrating with Africa, the question is, how best are we going to integrate within ourselves first, you know, and have this harmony moving in towards there. So production of goods and services will be relevant, and that electricity is one of the 8 key factors in regards to that. And I'm also amazed that Salva Kiir is going to head to meet Cyril Ramaphosa to still discuss further related aspects in terms of growth and investment of the country. Uganda has been having visits with Algeria, you know, in terms of promoting agriculture. And I mean, the different, now this is something which is going to be, I feel like it's collective responsibility for the different African leaders to see how best we can lobby away from the East African region as we go to other countries of Africa. Uganda has been to Zambia, has been to Algeria, you know, and so many more. Now, Salva Kiir is down here to South Africa, and of course, even the president Museveni was there into that very nation. Yes, something which is quite key, and we see that the responsibility is being handled quite very efficient. Well, right about now, away from that, now we head into our other business trend this morning. And this is in line with the Foreign Exchange Amendment Bill 2023. Of course, with quite lots of discussions which were into the Parliament, but of course later this was passed here. Now, according to this, both locals and foreigners are to pay 200 million to start a business. But the question is, this could lead, the other discussion in other words is that it could lead to money laundering if locals are to pay less money compared to foreigners, and foreigners could use that advantage that is ending up using the locals to do activities which are quite fraud related at some point. Well, let's have this discussion, and we have Honorable Henry Musasizi, State Minister for Finance, and we have Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, Shadow Minister for Finance, as they share their opinions on this matter.
Seeks to amend the Foreign Exchange Act of 2004 to provide for the enhancement of the minimum capital requirements to carry on foreign exchange business, the use of technology in operations and charging the administrative penalties, the strengthening of the vetting requirements, and the harmonization of the regulatory regime pertaining the foreign exchange bureaus and money remittance companies with the East African Community region.
Under this clause, I want to move that transfer for our local investors on the minimum 50, I agree. People who don't have 50 million, whether local or foreign, cannot engage in this business. It is highly requires a lot of cash. But for our local, to give our local people some small advantage, we put it to 150 million and the foreigners 200. Just the 150 and local 150 share capital and the foreign ones 200.
Madam Chair, if we begin now to say local in a liberalized economy, we are going even against the principles of East African Community. Yes. So I would suggest we don't go that way. I'm giving information, Honorable Chair. We should not go that way. We are going to contradict the principles of the integration of East African Community and even the principles of running a liberalized economy.
We realized and we got information that when this attempt was made to regularize betting, sports betting and the law around that, we had issues and it did not take off. So that's why we said, particularly when we are addressing this, it is double-edged in a sense that we are trying also to address issues of money laundering. And we shouldn't try to bring it low, yet our locals, even if they're operating, their businesses can be used for money laundering. And 200 million, in our opinion, as a committee, we think it is not so big, given the amounts that they use. Because, the difference here is we're talking about forex bureaus and remittance of money or money transfers to other countries. And we think by the time you are at that level, you should be having that capacity.
That, let's say, this is a player. These are players in the financial sector space. We have banks there. Some are domestically owned, others are foreign owned. Capital is capital to these banks. We have insurance players in the same industry. Their capital is capital, whether foreign or domestically owned. And also, the point you have just made, Madam Chair, we risk creating a window where people are going to start hiding under domestic when they are foreign. And also, when we talk about local, in the current laws, we define local to mean East African. There is a risk that we may tamper with the harmonization of the ESC community.
Well, that is in regards to the foreign amendment, the foreign amendment bill. That is for the year 2023, and of course just to repeat in here for what the few details that it entails, that the locals and foreigners are to pay 200 million, that is to start the business. And we also see the other aspect that it could lead to money laundering if locals are to pay less money compared to foreigners, and of course foreigners using that advantage when it comes to using the locals in so many associated fraud related issues. Well, that is it for our discussion at this particular time. And of course, before we get into the break, don't forget the markets on the Zabo platform, which will be opening. That is any time. Actually, they have already opened. They open at 8:15. Yeah, they are already operating. Now, for you to be a part of this, it's quite very simple. Just get your phone and dial *292#, which will avail with a number of options where you will be able to get government bonus securities for as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings. It's now the markets open at 8:15 and they'll be closing at 3:15 p.m. East African time. This is going to be, this is always effective Monday up to Friday, except the weekends like tomorrow when the markets won't be accessible. But at least you've had all the way from Monday up to this day, apart from the public holiday within the middle of the week that was on Wednesday eating. But you had the rest at least 4 days this week to trade and make yourself quite some money. Remember, this money keeps on accumulating time over time. You never know the time you reach when you want to retire from whatever you're doing and rest a bit. Of course, with your other associated savings, this could also be a part of your savings, buying government bonds and securities for you to earn a living. Now, Zabo says, my money, my future, and all that East Africa tells you, do something new for yourself come the year 2023. Now, of course, let's get into the break. When we return, we shall be, of course, crossing our eyes to the entertainment and sports business scene. Good morning.